Hello and welcome to another episode of Scott Reads Comics. Today I'll be covering the Hawkeye Epic Collection, Volume 1, The Avenging Archer. This is my last video of 2024, recorded on New Year's Eve, and I can't think of a better way to end a really nice year for my little channel than covering this banger of an epic collection with some of my favorite material from one of my favorite Avengers. Quickly, as I said, published Volume 1, published in 2022 by Marvel Comics, covers Hawkeye 1-4, that's the limited series. Avengers 16, 63-65, 189, 223, Marvel Team Up 22, 92, and 95. Cap 317, material from Tales of Suspense 57, 60, 64, Marvel Tales 100, Marvel Fanfare 3 and 39, and Marvel Super Action number 1. Not listed chronologically here, but presented chronologically in our Epic Collection. As an aside, I picked this Epic Collection up for $14 on bookoutlet.com on a Black Friday sale. Got it along with my Spider-Man Masterworks I mentioned a couple shows ago, which I hope to cover in 2025. We'll see how that goes. What a great collection this is, with some really cool material. We start out with the Tales of Suspense issues where Hawkeye is really just a foil for Iron Man. He's kind of a supervillain. I don't know if Stan had it in his head to make Hawkeye into a hero at some point, because he isn't really a full-on mustache twirling villain in these stories. He really is just more of a rival to Iron Man, which is also kind of strange because he can't really hold a candle to Iron Man in terms of power. But Hawkeye has ever been an inventive and genius combatant, really good in the moment at improvising. He proved it when he was the one Avenger who could defeat the Collector during the Korvac saga. And these early issues, I'm not a super big fan of the Don Heck art, but Don Heck, solid storyteller, capable, really nice job, classic Silver Age artwork. Then, of course, we get to Avengers 16, which is the beginning of Cap's kooky quartet, where the Avengers core members would leave, leaving Captain America, who had joined in issue 4, to pick up the pieces and assemble a new team. And that team would be Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, and, of course, Hawkeye, which is why it's included here. And there is, early on, a bit of a rivalry between Cap and Hawkeye. Hawkeye feels he's underpowered to be the Avengers leader, which is strange when I would consider Captain America to be the far more powerful and capable hero. Although, again, I love Hawkeye, and he benefits greatly from his relationship and training that he undergoes with Cap. But right here, I'll just read it. Whoops, bumped my camera. Sorry about that, folks. Strange that Captain America, who seems to possess no noticeable superpower, should be chosen as our leader. Oh well. And that friction would play out moving forward a bit too. And Hawkeye would have run-ins with other Avengers too, like Hercules, when he eventually joins the team to up their power quotient. But now we're going to fast forward quite a bit to Avengers 63, so from 16 to 63. And this is going to be 63, 64, 65. Fantastic story where Hawkeye gives up the moniker of Hawkeye and becomes Goliath. Really awesome. This is Gene Colan, peak Gene Colan superhero stuff here. His later run on the Avengers in the early 200s after Perez leaves, not good. I think the writing was also pretty bad on that too. I think really Jim Shooter did them dirty. And I think it was the tail end of David Michelini, too. It just wasn't that good. I love this classic Goliath costume that Hawkeye adopts. Hank Pym realizes that the growth serum isn't treating his body very well and maybe led to his breakdown, so he gives it up. In a moment of dire need, Clint Barton, Hawkeye, frustrated with the fact that he underperformed during that emergency in the beginning of the issue, takes the serum and goes to rescue the Black Widow, his lady love at the time. And as a kid, I read this in the Marvel Super Action. And it was really, for me, a formative kind of experience reading these early Avengers issues, these Silver Age Avengers issues in Marvel Super Action, and reading those early Hulk issues in Marvel Superheroes. I'm so glad that when I was a 7, 8, 9-year-old kid, Marvel was publishing those, and I could snatch them up and read them. And I didn't know the difference, but I had seen those those sort of poorly animated cartoons that I love of the old Kirby stories. They were in heavy rotation on my local channels, really before the advent of full-on advent of cable. So we got to see a lot of the early Spider-Man cartoon and the early Marvel cartoons with the great theme songs. And, you know, picking up the Marvel Super Actions and superhero reprints were what made me a fan. Oh, look at this. Awesome. Gene Colan just delivers here. So good. Oh, I love this sequence. We're going to see some really cool double-page sequences, if we haven't already, moving forward as well. This is great stuff. I'm not lingering too long. We have a lot of pages to cover, and I don't want to go on forever, so I'm just kind of paging through and giving you folks an idea of what to expect here. Next up, Marvel Team Up 22, Spider-Man and Hawkeye, and we get a Len Wein script with Sal Buscema and Frank Giacoia artwork, and man, could you have a more pro team on this great story? Really awesome. And who are they facing? Who's the big bad in this? They went deep into the archives here and brought out Quasimodo. And what a great character for Sal to illustrate. It's so perfect. Oh, here's an awesome double-page spread here. Really cool. Sal was so good at setting the scene. Look at these backgrounds, this facility that Quasimodo has his androids and robots working in. Really great. And here we have a Marvel Tales. And we're going to have a backup story from this Marvel Tales 100. Because a lot of times in those Marvel Tales, the page count would either be too long or too short for the current era. Like when this was published in 78, it was reprinting books from a much earlier period, so they had pages left over they had to fill, because in 78 they had more pages for that particular title. So they would include these backup stories, and that's where this one makes its appearance. But this Mike Nasser, Terry Austin artwork is awesome. Mike Nasser, if you haven't already noticed it, was a Krusty Bunker. And the Krusty Bunkers were disciples of Neil Adams. And this looks like Neil Adams. I mean, it's pretty darn close. Mike Nasser didn't do a ton of comics, but what he did was really cool. Man, does that look like Neil Adams. Wow. And it's a brief story, but fun. I love that they include deep cuts like that in these epic collections. That's what makes them great, and I think that's why DC finally got on with their new collections that are similar to epics. You have a gold mine of material in your archives. Start printing it in a format that people want to read. Again, I'm going to go on a bit of an anti-omnibus rant here. Those omnibuses that people love, that I see so many videos on, they're not reading copies. You cannot easily read them. This I can carry around the house. I can read it in bed. I can, pardon me, read it in the bathroom if I want to. You're not doing that with most omnibuses. They're just not a very user-friendly format. They look great on a shelf. They're good on a shelfie, but I would argue not good for the reader. This is a better format. The new DC Finest format is a better format. Avengers 189, wow, maybe my favorite issue of Byrne's 10-issue run during this period. Hawkeye's friction with the Falcon. He got left off the team. The Falcon was included for political reasons. Oh, love this shot of Wonder Man. No one could draw him like Byrne in this safari jacket. So cool. I love Yellow Jacket at this point too. Also not on the team. Our team at this point is these 7. Beast, Iron Man, Captain America, Ms. Marvel, Vision, Wasp, and Falcon. So Hawkeye has to get a job. He gets it with Cross Technological Enterprises as their chief of security because he's Hawkeye. He was an Avenger for years. and he does get the job. And 2 nights later, lo and behold, a super burglar has entered, and initially he thinks it's the Falcon, but of course it's not. Shygon's bones. No warrior of the Eyrie ever jabbered like you mortals do. Moved just in time. That could have been my arm instead of my quiver that got ripped open. So Hawkeye is outclassed here, but Hawkeye loves a fight where he's outclassed. Really awesome. He's an extremely, like I said, versatile combatant. And this is an incredible 5 or 6 page superhero fight that really no one could draw this better than John Byrne. Maybe George Perez. But here we can see Hawkeye's training with Cap coming to fore. And even with only one arm injured, he's still able to turn the lights out and turn the tables on Deathbird. Really great. And then at the end, with a bit of panache, one might say, planting the kiss on her. I can't say it hasn't been fun, Deathbird, but my date book's all filled up for a while, so don't call me, I'll call you. Really great. And then we had, meanwhile, back at the mansion, the Avengers are ready to once again throttle their government liaison, Agent Gyrick. Yocasta returns, which is great. The Avengers on trial, Heart of Stone. So that's the two-parter with the Grey Gargoyle, which is really cool. Moving on, Marvel Team Up 92, Spider-Man and Hawkeye. Great Stephen Grant script on this one. They're fighting Mr. Fear, who is a bit of a ham and egg or supervillain, but has a great costume and awesome Milgram Rubinstein cover. Joe Rubinstein, still active on social media, still working, awesome pro, one of the great inkers of all time. Interiors are Carmine Infantino penciler, Pablo Marcos inker. What they should really say here is Pablo Marcos power lifter, because he is doing some heavy lifting, rescuing Carmine's pencils. Because at this point, while Carmine is a thorough and solid layout artist, his pencils are a bit weak. His figure work leaves a lot to be desired. But you can see that Pablo Marcos, being the pro that he is, he makes this story look good. That's a classic Infantino marks there on that face. I could pick that out of a lineup every time. And really, we only get to see Mr. Fear in his full outfit sort of here in this panel in these next couple of pages. And I'm not sure if he ever uses his fear gas on these two. Well, here's some right here. But he doesn't use the gun that he usually has, I don't think. Here they are. This is our cover page. So they are both overcome by the fear gas. But they're heroes. And they eventually overcome their fear. Mr. Fear, that is. So, of course, the two part as friends. Next up, we get a story from Marvel Fanfare number 3. When I did that episode a couple of shows back where books I would buy no matter if I had copies of them or not from the dollar bin, this could have been in there too, very easily. These Marvel Fanfares 1 through 4, they show up in dollar bins in Pittsburgh all the time. And wow, they're such a cool bargain at that price. I urge anyone to pick them up if they see them. I love Eligila. This is a great matchup between these two. Eligila really a hero, so this is kind of one of those, foil or misunderstanding things. But really cool, a really nice artwork here too. Love that costume. And on to Avengers 223, which is when Ant-Man and Hawkeye join forces, somebody's going to get it. So this is that team that Stern, when he was sort of rebuilding the Avengers, brought together. Cap, Hawkeye, She-Hulk, Iron Man, Wasp, and Thor. And Iron Man would be replaced with Captain Marvel at some point, and basically Thor would be replaced with Star Fox later on. Look at this cover by Ed Hannigan and Klaus Janson. So good. And the interiors are every bit as cool. Greg LaRocque penciler, Brett Breeding inker. I love this. This is just classic, late Bronze Age, early Copper Age marble here. This is right in my wheelhouse when I was buying these off the rack. So cool. And Marvel does love a redhead, man. Really cool. This gal from Hawkeye's past. And we get Ant-Man, the Scott Lang Ant-Man. I love that costume, so classic. And speaking of classic costumes, boom, the Taskmaster is our villain in this one. One of the coolest costumes in comics ever. Right up there with Deathstroke, and both costumes designed by the same artist, George Perez, who is one of the great costume designers in all of comics history. Really cool. Great fight sequences here. Since they're at a circus, we get a little bit of animal action. Ant-Man doing that growth trick, taking out this full-grown lion, saving Hawkeye's bacon, shrinking them down. And we get a great fight against Taskmaster's thugs. And Taskmaster's no dummy. He always runs at the end because he doesn't want to get arrested. He's not one of those villains to fight to the end. Then we get, of course, our cover sequence. Payoff. I love it when a cover pays off in the actual story in one form or another. Ant-Man defusing this bomb. Really great. I love that. That reminds me of Al Milgrom there, too. Greg LaRocque's style was very much in its formative stages at this point. He would become such a solid artist on the Legion of Superheroes. He'd have a long, epically long run on there. Next up, we're going to get this character called the Huntress, eventually I think becomes Mockingbird, who, of course, is going to be Hawkeye's wife. This great black and white sequence. Always cool to get a little bit of this. I love my color comics, but it's fun, excuse me, to sprinkle in a little bit of black and white here and there. Really nice artwork here. This is, I think George Klein was the inker, but the penciler I wasn't that familiar with. Oh, George Evans and Frank Springer. There we go. Next up, another Mockingbird story. Team Up 95, and this one is going to have Jimmy James and Bruce Patterson artwork, and this is really nice artwork. Bruce Patterson is such an underrated inker. We don't talk about him enough. He did some really great work for DC, too. And we got Mockingbird here. Really cool. Oh, man. Great costume design, whoever designed that costume. I don't know if it was our artist on this issue or not, but very nice. Jimmy James and Bruce Patterson. Mockingbird, who ends up having some affiliation with S.H.I.E.L.D. This guy, I don't even know who this is. He's got the Satan Claw, though. The old Strucker weapon. Spider-Man crushes it. Great move. So she's badly hurt at the end. So here we have the Hawkeye Limited Series. And this one was great. 4-issue mini. And drawn by Mark Grunwald and written by Mark Grunwald, inker, embellisher, Brett Breeding. So I think these are probably more Grunwald layouts because Grunwald was a decent penciler, but he wasn't a regular penciler. And the art on this is really good. Brett Breeding is so talented. He did a lot of heavy lifting for Marvel in this period. Oh, I always loved this sequence as a kid. I did archery with my dad and my brother when we were kids. We usually used compound bows, but we did have some recurved bows too, and this sequence is great. Let me see that thing. I used to shoot a bow and arrow in Boy Scouts. It ain't so hard. Phooey, there's got to be a trick to it. Yep, there is. Practice. So I think his bow has a 75-pound draw, which is, you got to be really strong and well practiced to be able to do a 75-pound draw. And there's no let off as you're holding it the entire time. Really great here. I think this lady eventually betrays Hawkeye. And of course, here's our first Hawkeye, Mockingbird, Fracas. Eventually, Hawkeye, throughout this limited series, realizes that the company he's working for, Cross Technologies, is crooked. So he eventually teams up with Mockingbird. And really great sequence here of him practicing, missing the mark. 3 bullseyes, 2 KOs, 5 sleazos in Dreamland. Thanks, creeps. You gave me a reason to go on living. I'm just not sure what it is. So Hawkeye is down, beat up, but still fighting. And Mockingbird is just the person to kind of get him back on his groove. And we get her backstory here. Unfortunately, I took a few bullets too from a few overzealous SHIELD agents. I spent the next 6 months in a private hospital convalescing. When I recovered, I turned down a SHIELD promotion to go solo. So that tells us what happened at the end of that Marvel team up. This is a cool villain too, the Silencer. Pretty neat villain design here from Grunwald. So we get the Silencer, and I think we might get the Death Throes in this 4-issue miniseries too. Yeah, here they are. Oddball. And we get Danny Bulanati doing the inking, and he's still Grunwald on the pencils. Danny Bulanati is another one of those Marvel inkers who's just superb. Love this firefighting sequence here. This guy up on the aerial using the master streams. Really cool. FDNY in action in the Marvel Comics. Always cool to see. Grunwald is a great storyteller. And it's really, I think Alan Moore is sort of a decent penciler too. And he would sometimes do layouts. Great writers are great storytellers. And of course, Hawkeye recognizes Steve, Captain America. He offers to help, but Hawkeye, with his new costume, new improved costume, he wants to do it on his own with Mockingbird. Really cool. Classic here, dressed as a nun, but very much not a nun. Yeah, great villain here, Oddball. Perfect for Hawkeye. Just a cool madcap villain. I don't know if they ever did a hero click of him, but he would be great to have as a 28mm miniature for gaming purposes. And this, I remember this so well, picking this up off the rack at Ides Comics in 1983. Really cool, very impactful cover. We get Grunwald still penciling and Bulanati still inking here on the last issue. And Crossfire is our main baddie behind it all. And we've seen him before in the pages of Marvel 2-in-1. He's been around. Look at this double page sequence here. This is awesome. And again, our cover paying off a little bit here. In Crossfire's eyes, at least. So yeah, he's going to kill Hawkeye, and at the funeral, he's going to unleash a device that makes all the attendees kill each other. So all the superheroes there will kill each other. And this is the great issue, too, in continuity-wise. He's making these two fight each other because it's an aggression device. Oh, man, this is a great wordless sequence here. This is so well done by Grunwald and Bulanati. Really cool. Yeah, but this is the sequence where Hawkeye deafens himself to the point where he needs a hearing aid moving forward. And of course, here we get another payoff of a scene from issue 1 where Crossfire cannot draw Hawkeye's 75-pound longbow. And he blows himself up. Weakest hero in town, am I? Sucker. And what does that make you? You didn't have the strength to pull my 250-pound bow. Oh, sorry, folks. It was a 250-pound draw, which is insane. And Mockingbird's still alive. And they end up getting married, which is a great payoff. And their relationship is somewhat fraught later on during the Englehart West Coast Avengers book, but that'll be covered later at some point. Cap 317, I think, finishes us off. Get some great Grunwald story with Paul Neary pencils here. I always love this cover, too. Really cool. Paul Neary, and I'm not sure if that's Jackson Geis or who the Jackson was. Here we get the full Death Throes introduced. And we get some flashbacks to the Hawkeye miniseries, which we just went through. These are some colorful villains, the kind of villains I just love. Great sequence here. This Mark Grunwald was relatively early in his Cap run, which was epically long, 10 years. And this is just building some formative stuff. And at the very end, Bernie Rosenthal leaves Cap. Sad. Okay, that was not the end. We get a little short here from Marvel Fanfare, drawn by Joe Staton and inked by Kim DeMulder and J.M. DeMatteis on the writing, which is really cool. I love this artwork here. Joe Staton, another one of those great storytellers. Oh, that's awesome, yeah. So Black Crow, he meets Black Crow. Really cool. Last appeared in Cap 292. Really great. This is a typical J.M. DeMatteis story at this point, too. We got a lot of mysticism in here. Cover from Marvel Triple Action. I love when the Epic Collections throw a little bit of this in at the end. This is probably from Marvel Age. Great house ad. Come on, Marvel. Publish a whole collection of house ads. Why don't you? These are from past reproductions of the Hawkeye miniseries. Great Mark Grunwald afterward from '88 here. Mark Grunwald, rest in peace, passed away a long time ago, but still missed. Official handbook entries, always nice to have. There's our Death Throes. Oh, knick-knack, so cool. Yep, and that's it, folks. That is a breeze through the Hawkeye App Collection Volume 1. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends. I'll bring you more soon on Scott Reads Comics. Thanks for watching.